Hello, and my name is Mackenzie Job, and this is my in school assignment for the STEM class. And I was really wanting to do something that didn't require a lot of materials or time and was accessible to multiple grade levels, as I was planning on doing this for a STEM night, and also something that kids could take home. I've done several different STEM nights, and I've helped run a little um, like animal puppet type thing where they got to create their own little puppets, and they got to take them home, and they really loved that. So that was something that was important to me. So I did this quick challenge that focuses on the geometry standards between kindergarten through fourth grade. And but I think this could be something that any grade level would enjoy doing. Um, it's pretty relaxing and just something fun. So again, like I said, it's kindergarten through fourth grade, and it focuses on geometry, so those shapes, angles, things like that. And it takes, I mean, it would depend on how much detail these students would want to put into this, but probably like 10-ish minutes, maybe 20. Um, And the big idea is that each shape has unique properties, lines, and sides, and patterns can be seen in several different ways. So their challenge is to create a miniature quilt design pattern using at least um, two two-dimensional shapes. Excuse me. And I mean, that was more for the younger kids. I should probably clarify the older kids I would try and challenge them to do tessellation, so that doesn't really allow for two-dimensional shapes. But for the younger kids, just trying to get them to incorporate a couple different shapes. So the materials, again, like I said, really easy. Just 5-inch by 5-inch white square paper. Crayons, markers, colored pencils, maybe even color construction paper and scissors if they wanted to actually cut those shapes out, or you could try and challenge some older kids to cut out shapes to create this. And then various resources of quilts and tessellation patterns just to provide some scaffold of what these should look like or could look like. And then teacher procedures, just talking with students about the shapes and maybe what tessellation means, and seeing any patterns that they may do with either like color or order of shapes. And the students will then design their quilt pattern with at least 2 different shapes. For older students, coming up with tessellations. And then utilizing this, I felt like not only could it be used for a STEM night, but maybe even a community builder at the very beginning of the school year in your classroom. So this, each kid gets to create their quilt pattern, and then you actually make like a classroom quilt representing each one of the students. This could also easily be done at home as a resource for parents just wanting to give them a quick little activity to do, to maybe like practice shapes and colors with your younger kids. And then it's easy to adjust your questioning depending on the grade level, addressing different standards, like maybe for fourth grade, focusing on those lines and angles, different angles that they might see, parallel lines, those kinds of things, whereas in kindergarten you'd be focusing more on identifying those shapes and colors. Encourage students to make patterns or identify those patterns, but patterns of color and things like that. I would also probably want to include some brainstorming paper just to encourage more of that STEM ideas of brainstorming different ways to design their quilt. And then some additional resources you might consider. There's several different museums in Northwest Arkansas. So like the Rogers Museum, for example, they have available like quilts and quilt patterns available to check out as a resource. So that would be kind of cool to incorporate that in like the history. And then some differentiation and consideration of students. So changing those questions aimed for various grade levels, encouraging older students to do tessellations and maybe cutting out their shapes. So that would, they'd have to be very, work on that precision and accuracy of trying to make them similar to make tessellations. Younger kids, encouraging just the identifying shapes and color patterns. And for support, providing examples of shapes and tessellations on the table, like pictures of these, and providing examples of quilts and quilt patterns. So these are some examples that I've made. This one is an example of tessellations where the shape is repeated over and over to where it connects and covers the entire area. And this is an example of the challenge. So you can see there's a square in the middle and also several different triangles with different size angles. So that could be something else to talk about, maybe with the older kids as well. And then mine also have some color patterns that they could talk about. So this is just an idea if you want to incorporate it. Super easy and very accessible in many different ways.